From the Kfgo News Center, I'm Tasha Carvel. Fargo Public Schools Superintendent Rupak Gandhi presented the system's plan for increasing substitute teacher pay at last night's school board meeting. Effective immediately through the end of the school year, the new daily rate for subs will be $130 for those who do not have a regular teaching license and $150 for those who do. This year, the average number of daily subs needed in Fargo has been 70, but the system only has 40 on its payroll. The shortage issue has been called an operational crisis. Gandhi said this is a short-term fix.
The reason that this sunsets on May 26th at the end of the year is because we want to take a more comprehensive approach this summer. Look at substitutes and what's the best way to align our dollars with the individuals that we want serving as a substitute for a classroom teacher.
Gandhi says they are looking for community partnerships to help address the issue in the future, including one with Valley City State.
Their entire junior class that is taking their education programs working towards being certified teachers will be renting spaces from Fargo Public Schools 2 days a week to do their coursework here. Their professors would do it out of our buildings, and then that entire junior class will then sub for us 3 days a week.
Fargo schools will also permanently increase pay for staff who give up planning and prep time to fill in as subs when needed. There appears to be bipartisan support in the Minnesota House for cracking down on unruly fans who assault sports officials during youth athletic events or otherwise disturb the proceedings. In the Minnesota High School League, Roger Aronson said in a Tuesday hearing that that organization will begin gathering reports from the school district so appropriate protocols can be established.
For every one we know about, there's 20 we don't. And we got to get to where we know. So we get past this kind of, hey, this really isn't an issue we need to be dealing with. We need to get to this is an issue that we all need to be dealing with.
Aronson says the current climate needs to move toward a culture of respect. Wade Bison has been charged with a number of offenses, including murder, in connection with the hit-and-run death of 77-year-old Irwin Geigel. The incident happened Monday morning in Mandan. After striking and killing Geigel in the parking lot of an arena, Bison fled the scene in a stolen vehicle. He refused to pull over when a Bismarck police officer attempted a traffic stop and then collided with a delivery truck, rolled down a hill, and into a fence at a motel. Besides the murder charge, Bison is being accused of leaving the scene of an accident involving death, terrorizing, and reckless endangerment. Bison makes his first court appearance today. A North Dakota man imprisoned for fatally shooting his parents, brother, and sister in 1992 continues his quest to have his life sentence reduced. Michael Neugebauer was 15 when he killed 4 family members in their home east of Bismarck. He was sentenced to life in prison. After pleading guilty to the murders, Neugebauer filed a motion for a sentence reduction hearing in 2020, which was denied, and he appealed it to the state Supreme Court, which agreed a hearing should take place. On Tuesday, Neugebauer testified he endured years of abuse at home before the fatal shootings. No immediate ruling on the defense motion. The Bismarck Police Department has a suspect in custody in the shooting death of a 22-year-old man, which took place this morning in a residential neighborhood in northwest Bismarck. Officers responded to the area of Hawken and Stevens Streets for a report of shots fired shortly before 9 a.m. They arrived to find a man dead of a gunshot wound. Residents in the area reported hearing screams and gunshots. Detectives are currently investigating the scene and following up on leads. Police say this was a targeted attack on the individual. Mostly cloudy and windy today, high of 40, winds gusting 17 to 37 miles an hour. Tonight, decreasing clouds and wind, low of 24, gusty north winds decreasing to under 12 miles an hour after midnight. Tomorrow it'll be partly sunny, high of 53, winds coming south-southwest 6 to 17 miles an hour. Right now, it is 35 degrees, cloudy and windy in Fargo-Moorhead. From the Kfgo News Center, I'm Tasha Carvel.
If you can figure out what announcement I'm about to share with you based on this song, congratulations. You are living in a universe far advanced from where I am right now. Eric's like, hey, I think I got the perfect song to get to our announcement right here about what's going to be available to you by being listeners of KFGO.
I tell you what, you make the announcement, and I'll come in afterwards and put the pieces together for you.
All right. So this has been a long time coming. I'm glad we finally get a chance to do this because there are a couple of staples, in the upper Midwest. You have got KFGO and you've got meat raffles. And on Thursdays, we've got the Meat Do that answers all your meat-related questions. So what better way to bring all these traditions together than providing a radio meat raffle every week here on KFGO? And that's exactly what we're going to do thanks to a couple of our sponsors. When it comes to all of this, you've got Barnesville Grocery providing the meats, providing you the opportunity to win meat every week on Afternoons Live on Thursdays when we're visiting with the Meat Dude, and on It Takes Two on Tuesdays, and that's starting tomorrow. So we've got Barnesville Grocery that's going to be doing the meats for your gearing up for grilling. And then you're going to have Bar 9, because at the end of this, you're going to have an opportunity twice every week to win meat here on our meat raffle. But it's all going to culminate in a big old party. You know how we enjoy those here on Afternoons Live. And then we're going to have an opportunity for you to win yet another Traeger. That Traeger grill, that giveaway that we did just a few months ago over at Bar 9, where hundreds of you showed up. Thank you. Only one of you won. We're going to have another opportunity to do that. It's simple. You want to take part in the meat raffle, all you have to do, if you're listening to me right now, text MEAT to 35270. You can go to kfgo.com and find the Gear Up for Grilling promo down there as well, and you can register right there. You just enter in all that information. We get you registered on this end, and then all you got to do is listen tomorrow while we're having our conversation with the Meat Dude and see if you, in fact, won the meat raffle for this week. Again, on Tuesdays, It Takes Two is going to be doing this as well, so we're going to have two opportunities every week for the next few weeks to win meat, and all you have to do is text MEAT to 35270 and listen. And what I'm looking forward to is exactly the fact that, because we've got the Meat Dude who's been gracious with us every Thursday for, 3 years now? Then I'm going to be, okay, here's what you can get from Barnesville Grocery this week. Now, give me a recipe. Give me a technique. Give me the rubs you would put on this so you can go ahead and jot those down and put the meat that you're going to win just by being listeners here on KFGO. Okay, so back to the whole song. Did I talk too long to where it's gone now?
Nope. I got it.
Paused it.
It's Big Ball in Cowtown, which is a song about a celebration in Frisco, Texas, where they have the giant stockyards, and we're giving away meat and having a big party at the end.
See, now if you have to explain in as
I mean, it is right
detail.
in the title. So.
Maybe it's just because I'd never heard it before. We couldn't play Eat a Steak like we usually do for Spencer Word because I would have been confused. Said that I'm not prepared for all the meat-related questions, and I wouldn't want you to text those in. Lots of entries already. I appreciate that.
Holy moly. People are excited about it. And here's the thing.
Raffle. If you don't win tomorrow, you only have to register once. So if you get registered, if you don't win tomorrow, be listening on Tuesday during It Takes Two. If you don't win then, guess what? That next Thursday, we're doing this all over again for quite some time. It's one of those things been looking so forward to. We finally got the pen on paper. Tuesdays and It Takes Two, Thursdays right here on Afternoons Live.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Axe, but we're going to get out the actual paddle wheel and actually spin it, right?
Yeah, there ain't no algorithms being used for this. We've got a wheel in which you will hear spinning behind me on Thursdays, and we're going to pull a few of those registrations, call your name, and then all you got to do is be listening. And then guess what? You're going to be able to go to Barnesville Grocery, whether it's bacon, brisket, ribs, all the things that you would expect in any small town meat raffle or big town meat raffle. That's what's going on right here over the airwaves of KFGO. So again, I want to thank our sponsors, the Barnesville Grocery and Bar 9. That's going to be where the party is on April 21st. Bar 9 West Fargo is where we're going to do I guess an in-person meat raffle on that day, but also your chance to win that Traeger grill, because all this meat's got to get cooked somehow. So we're going to get you geared up for grilling during the warm months ahead here on KFGO. You can join the conversation all day today. 237-5948 is the Laney studio line. And, of course, a lot of you know the text club at 35270 because I'm looking at how many registrations we've got right here at the top of the show. Number of things we're going to get to. And in just a little bit, we're going to head down to St. Paul or check in with Bill Werner, a friend of the show here. Last week, you and I and Joel Heitkamp were talking about the fact that you've got unruly fans. And you know what? Quite frankly, I'm sick and tired of it. Just as another observer that goes to these, but quite frankly, if you are, an official or you're a coach, you got to the point, some cases where you just threw your hands up and say, why in the world would I put myself through this? When I'm out here to have fun, still be a part of a sport that I love, help these young adults, these children in some cases, get to learn sportsmanship, to get to go on, win or lose, get to experience the victories and the failures of just being in athletics or being in competitions. But they don't want to do it in the droves of which we hope and expect, because you got parents acting like children instead of the children out there having fun. So in Minnesota, there's a legislative committee that's been looking at, beefing up, if you will, a little bit of what you have to, or what could be brought towards those unruly fans. We're talking in the form of fines. I know that in some cases there's been, physicality in these, and quite frankly, there's already some statutes involved there when it comes to assault. Putting your hands on somebody never accepted. So why would it be any different here? But the fact that it's got to this point, in which you've got an entire state legislature having to look and discuss this very issue because it is so it's so dominant now in the stands. It's just ridiculous, folks. And the sad thing is we all know or have experienced somebody that's been that unruly fan. And then sometimes we've had to take it upon ourselves to say, look, knock it off. But when it comes to this, good. Put a little bit more weight behind this. Because if you don't set an example of what some of these unruly fans is, that whole wildfire is just going to keep growing, unfortunately. So we'll talk about that. Also, the no-knock warrant ban is moving forward in the Minnesota House. We talked about that during the last time, that there was a no-knock warrant and someone was shot and killed in their own apartment. All that and more. Also, Seth Stowes, we're spending a little bit of time over in Minnesota, which is great. I know we have a lot of Minnesota listeners, so we're going to do that. Yesterday, if you missed our conversation about this carbon capture, it's a Summit Carbon Solutions. You got a lot of big money, big donors behind it. I mean, Harold Ham's put in, $250 million into putting a pipeline to capture carbon, ship it out to counties in more western North Dakota, put it under the ground. Say, all right, here's a nice place just to store this gas. Concept sounds okay. In fact, we had the Clean Energy Task Force talking about why they are supportive of the idea. Maybe not necessarily this exact project, but you know what? When I keep reading in reports saying if it works, that's a big if. And if I'm a landowner who's been asked, and I've had that vehicle drive up my gravel road and knock on my door saying, you know what? It's a nice plot of land you got here. Would sure love to put this pipeline carrying this greenhouse gas below you. I want an answer to that if. Scott Skokas is with the Dakota Resource Council. He's visiting with some of those landowners, and we'll get his perspective in just a little bit. Going to take a quick pause here. More Afternoons Live right after this. We're just getting started here on KFGO. Giving mood as of late, for no other reason besides the fact that I keep getting things. I say, you know what, get rid of them. Save, get people out doing things. Mike, unfortunately, couldn't go to 38 Special after he won a pair of tickets. So I've got more opportunities today and tomorrow to get you in possession of some of these tickets. That's, again, going to be taking place at Shooting Star Casino Friday. That's this Friday at 8 p.m. So be listening for your opportunity for there as well. And if you're just joining us, if you go and text MEET to 35270. I do want to, for those, because there's a lot of people that have, there's a prompt there that goes, there's a link that just goes in. All you have to do is fill out that information to get fully registered. Then be listening tomorrow with our conversation with the MEET dude to learn a little bit more and hear if your name's called on these very airwaves. We're going to dive in to the specific of the carbon capture pipeline here in a little bit's time, but I want to just throw this out there because the way I am viewing some of the activity going on the eastern side of the state, and I guess this pipeline is not isolated to eastern North Dakota. I mean, certainly South Dakota is part of it, but it's going to end up pumping this greenhouse gas underground and more western, west central North Dakota. But the real dispute that I am observing, and some of them, and the worry from some individuals, I mean, it's in every single one of these issues I'm about to rattle off for you. You've got the soybean plant in Castleton raised a lot of concern from people that are on the ground, people that call Castleton home and that surrounding area. And their concerns are water, traffic, and the way of which it was brought forward, and finding out some of this because of press releases from, say, politicians, instead of having it go through the ground up, that local control. This pipeline. You had a big old gathering out at Castleton. You had Harold Hamm fly in, probably on his private jet here to Fargo. Had the governor, politicians. They had this big old press conference saying this is going to happen. And there's been some people that are still waiting on that knock on the door to see how, in fact, they're going to be approached in this process. So, again, top down instead of going out and doing some of the legwork to make sure that any frustration or confusion or questions was brought forward and perhaps attempted to be addressed up front. Now, up in Grand Forks, you have the same situation. You've got this corn milling plant that they're discussing, again, through press releases. You had this big formal announcement before people that are going to be impacted are really brought into the conversation. Again, concerns wastewater, odor, traffic, and the way of which it was brought forward. That it was told that this is going to happen in your neck of the woods versus would you be supportive of having something like this here? Now, what I'm seeing with this connection of these three, the same situation is the fact that you've got this potential for big projects that have some, I think, greater good benefit, but you've got that local aspect that's, as a property owner, as somebody that's going to be directly impacted, could you at least have the respect and the courtesy to come on out, knock on my door, have a conversation, look me in the eye and say, this is what we're asking of you? Because that seems like a very important step that has been missed along the way through what feels like all three of these projects. And it's only after the fact of these press releases and the whole patting on the back with the great seal of the great state of North Dakota on all these press releases saying, look what I'm doing for you, that these individuals are now being brought into it, saying, look, I wish I would have known a little bit sooner. Why are we finding out in this fashion? Because here's a whole laundry list of things I would like to have addressed. And now it feels like you're just creating that tension to where anybody that's questioning it, anybody that's saying, you know what, I'm not quite comfortable with my direct impacts, they're just completely opposing some of these projects. And I don't know that that's necessarily the case. I do know that it's not fair to those people that are questioning these plants and questioning these projects. Your thoughts at 237-5948. You could also, that's the Laney studio line. You can also text me at 35270, the Ag Consultants of North Dakota Text Club. There's one that I'm going to get to here in just a little bit that is about the no-knock warrants. Because Bill Warner's going to be joining me in about 3 minutes' time after we get you caught up with Kfto News. We're talking about fines for unruly fans. No-knock warrant ban is moving forward in the Minnesota House as well. There's no progress, I think, in the Senate yet I don't know if there will be. But somebody is pretty upset about what happened when it comes to, look, just simply follow the law. I'll address that after we get the latest of what the progress is on that bill and that proposal, and we'll have the conversation yet again. In the meantime, Kfgo News on the way. Rusty Halverson will get you some of the latest agriculture news. I know he wants to talk about hunger issues and what we're watching globally when it comes to Ukraine, Russia, and you're already seeing and hearing from some of these groups that are concerned about what that's going to do just for food supply. In the meantime, I'm going to get you caught up with those Kfgo News. Bill Warner, Capital Correspondent for Minnesota News Network, is next. I'm Tyler Exodus. You're listening to KFGO Fargo.
News and weather this hour brought to you by Muscatel Pre-Owned. Muscatel's was voted #1 by LocalsLoveUs.com for good reason. So stop in today at Muscatel Pre-Owned, just off of Exit 1 in Moorhead.
Currently cloudy conditions in Fargo-Moorhead, 36 degrees. I'm Madison Quinn from the KFGO News Center. Bismarck Police Department have said they have a suspect in custody for homicide this morning that left a 22-year-old man dead. Lieutenant Luke Gardner said officers responded shortly before 9 to a parking lot in the 2700 block of Stevens Street in northwest Bismarck on reports of shots fired. They arrived to find a 22-year-old man dead from a gunshot wound. So it was a targeted attack on the individual, and the suspect is still at large. Detectives are investigating the scene and following up on leads. The shooting happened a short distance from an elementary school where students and children were told to shelter in place. Again, that suspect is in custody. Investigators are asking people in the neighborhood to contact the police department if they have any video evidence from doorbell cameras or home surveillance. The Fargo School Board voted Monday to begin reciting the Pledge of Allegiance at the beginning of future board meetings. Proposal was originally introduced on February 8th by board member David Paulson, but the motion failed. Paulson said the motion was inspired by his grandchildren who recite the pledge in school. Final vote was 6-2. Board member Seth Holden voted against the plan, and that resulted in a disagreement with board member Jennifer Benson, who voted for the pledge.
There are so many reasons that this is a good idea, but I think what it comes down to is everything that I heard you say wouldn't have been allowed without those sacrifices, and so we should honor it.
Patriotism is a feeling that lives in your heart. It doesn't necessarily have to be something that you shout from a rooftop every day and insinuate any way, shape, or form that I disrespect anyone who's sacrificed their life for this country. That's grotesque.
Language in the original motion that called for the school board president to lead the pledge was removed. No members will be required to recite the pledge. Currently 36 degrees in Fargo-Moorhead, cloudy. This is KFGO News. Currently 36 degrees in Fargo-Moorhead, KFGO News Time, 2:33. North Dakota Army National Guard unit has received an alert for possible mobilization. If ordered to mobilize, the Fargo Base 191 Military Police Company would deploy to the U.S. Central Command Area of Operations sometime later, the summer of 2022. Unit is headquartered in Fargo with a detachment in Grand Forks. If they are mobilized, about 155 soldiers are expected to be deployed about a year. This is the third overseas mobilization for the 191 Military Police Company. In 2012, about 30 soldiers served at Guantanamo, Cuba for 9 months, and about 180 soldiers served in Iraq from 2008 to 2009. Well, the Twins have officially introduced their new star shortstop this morning at spring training in Fort Myers. Carlos Correa signed a 3-year contract worth more than $105 million over the weekend. He says his first order of business, we get to know his new teammates.
I know the potential and the talent that's in there, but I want to get to know them as a person, and I want to get to know, what they want to achieve this year. If I can help them in any way with some information to get better, at the end of the day, that's going to be great for the team, and it's going to give us a big chance to go out there and win the division.
Grapefruit League spring training games continue in Florida for Minnesota. Twins open the regular season on April 7th at Target Field against Seattle. You can hear that right here on the Mighty 790 and 104.7 KFGO, your home for Twins baseball. Taking a look at the KFGO Weather Center forecast. Today, high 40, mostly cloudy and windy. Gusts up to 37 miles an hour. Tonight, overnight low 24, decreasing clouds and wind. Tomorrow, high 53, partly sunny skies. Wind will die down a little bit, 6 to 17 miles an hour. Friday, partly to mostly cloudy and windy, high 42. Expect a chance for light snow or flurries in the morning. Those will then dissipate Saturday and Sunday. This weekend, highs between 40 and 42 with partly to mostly cloudy skies. I'm Madison Quinn, News Radio, KFGO.
Rusty Alverson in the KFGO
Yes, sir.
studio. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Very good.
Yeah.
Meat raffle, it's underway.
Oh,
It's officially official. It's launched. Just text MEAT to 35270.
really?
The meat dude tomorrow.
Oh, exciting.
Yeah, finally.
I know you guys were talking about it.
It's been a long time coming because I said the type of gambling I can get into, bingo,
Yep.
meat raffles.
Yeah, everybody loves a good meat raffle.
Yeah. Well,
Yep.
now we're doing one right here on KFGO.
Awesome.
You've been following along when it comes to food in general.
Sure.
Not just meats, but what you got this global crisis going on, this war that's ongoing.
Yep.
What that means for wheat, for example.
Yep.
I know some other places have been looking to cover some of that.
Yeah. The situation in Ukraine, that war will likely challenge global grain production, could worsen hunger and poverty. That, according to several agricultural experts, policymakers, whoever you ask, Tyler, it's a legitimate concern. Now, former USDA chief economist Joe Glauber recently addressed that topic during a Farm Foundation forum. Now, many of those poor countries in the Middle East and Northern Africa will likely have to subsidize food prices because of the situation. According to American Scientific, in Turkey, people scrambling to buy cooking oil and in anticipation of further price hikes. Thailand facing surging costs for feedstocks, according to American Scientific. And in Egypt, the top importer of Russian wheat, they have banned exports of homegrown wheat to try and keep supplies stable. Indonesia restricting exports of palm oil. That's a potential substitute for other vegetable oils. So it's a domino effect, and we just keep seeing it.
Well, and then you take this a couple of steps further, and you think about some of the tensions that could arise out of hungry populations because there's not enough food and famine, starvation, all. Yeah.
Yep.
And we'll get into that a little bit later on.
Yeah.
I'm glad that it's being discussed now, so you can hopefully have some solutions before it gets to that point.
Yep.
But yeah, just dire around the world.
Yep. Absolutely.
Rusty, I appreciate the update. I'll save that spot for you next hour.
Yeah,
right?
let's talk about feeding people at home next hour.
We'll do that.
Okay.
Very good. Rusty Alverson, him and Sarah Heinrich, multi-award winning journalists of agriculture. Kfgo.com. You clicked on that agriculture tab and learned just a little bit more about what they've been up to. CBS National News on the way. When we come back, Bill Warner, our Capitol correspondent down in St. Paul. That's next. We try to head on down to St. Paul and get the latest of what the world's going on in that great capital down in that neck of the woods, and visit with Bill Warner. He's our Capitol correspondent, friend of the show here, and he joins us right now on Afternoons Live. Bill, how you doing, buddy? Yeah, well, spring's here. That helps. Maybe tensions are down. People can let the hair down, kick the feet up, and enjoy what Minnesota has to offer. Well, you're reading my mind because after you, I've got Twins Talk coming up right after. Yeah, so we're spending a lot of time. Let's dive in. Yeah, speaking of sports, you know what? These unruly fans need to get taught a lesson, unfortunately. And there's too damn many of them, Bill. I know that the fact that this got up to the level that the legislature is addressing this shows how big of a problem we have. What's the latest you got for us? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, Bill, we had a conversation about that on this show last week because it was just a hop, skip, and a jump from where I'm sitting over in the Detroit Lakes area where an individual did just that. And I don't need to ask your opinion on it, but here's mine. They're watering it down. I want an example set of these unruly fans because the display they're putting in front of these young children is just absurd. But that's just my opinion. I won't ask yours, but I'm glad that nothing's being changed on the criminal side as far as what's there already. But yeah, correct. So, I mean, this seems like something a lot of people can rally around. I didn't find anybody in our conversation last week that said, well, geez, Tyler, you're taking it a little too far here. Is that the same sentiment you're gathering from out on the Capitol? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, Bill, I've made this comment and I'll say it one more time. It's sad that a lot of people listening know somebody that is that fan or has been in attendance and seen an outburst like what this bill and what these fines would do to try to prevent it from happening again. So it's more widespread than what it should be. That's why I think we got to do something to set an example. So I'm glad. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we could. Politics being one of them, which is what you and I are talking about right now. Another thing that's been a topic of conversation frequently is this no-knock warrant, trying to ban that. And I know that there's been a movement. There was an incident in which someone was shot and killed by police after they utilized and executed a no-knock warrant. What's the latest there? Is there any movement to have an incentive towards hiring law enforcement? I know that was it Jacob Fry asked for, hey, look, we cannot find police officers. Now that's a whole other path that we can go down as to why they might not be applying for the job. But as far as the are they going to provide any money, or is that kind of a no deal? Yeah. You, Bill, last week I had a caller call in saying, I'm going to get a petition going. And for that listener, I apologize. I don't remember your name. So I'm going to get a petition going. I want to get this circulated around. I want to get signatures, and I want to get this passed to where if Minnesota lawmakers do not get their work done before the end of the regular session, they do not get paid during the special session. I throw that out there for you to chew on. And they're not going to do it to themselves, I imagine, Bill. Yeah. Bill, I just want to get to one more topic before I get this weather update. Ukraine's on the top of mind for a lot of people. I know that that's been a topic of conversation on the Capitol. What's the latest that you're hearing? Yep. And Bill, with that, we're going to let the listeners put it in their own mind who was the reference there. And my friend, I'm out of time this week, but I tell you what, we'll do this again next Wednesday, all right? Yeah, you do the same there. Bill Warner, Capitol Correspondent, Minnesota News Network. More coming on. Oh, we got a lot of 35270. A lot of people sharing their thoughts. No Knox, I got to get this weather update. Well, I'll get back to your thoughts right after this. 870. That's the eye consultants of North Dakota Text Club. Tyler, the SOB, which is going to, I imagine, be referencing Amir Locke, the 22-year-old that was asleep on the couch, who was shot and killed after this no-knock. This individual thinks he was the SOB, was sleeping with a firearm. He was prepared for the no-knock warrant or something else bad. Don't want to see the police. Don't break the blanket law. It's that simple. Now, if I recall, it was not Amir Locke they were even looking for. So you have an individual that's sleeping on a couch of the place that is his, and the no-knock, the door kicks open, and you know what? He's got the firearm there, and he gets up. Delirious state. How many of you have a firearm that you bought for your home and your personal protection for that moment in which you just drew, and I hope it never, ever happens, that you hear somebody break in a window or break in a door? Right? Now, put yourself in that position of this. Now, as far as whether it should be an all-out ban on it or if you should at least tighten it up to a specific, here's what you got to have it down to this. Because I don't think that I had callers last time saying, but what if it is this? Oh, what if it is? Then yes, that's why you have to have those policies to where you say, all right, if it is this, then it's allowed, and here's the stipulations. Now, if I also recall in this moment, because people are saying, all you bleeding hearts need to wake up and you need to support the police. The police on the St. Paul side didn't want the no-knock. The ones on Minneapolis did. So, I mean, you can't say it's just a blanket statement. You don't support the police that way. We'll get back to this conversation after CBS News. After we get you caught up on local headlines with, I believe, Madison Quinn in the Kfgo News Center. I see you lurking around back there. We're going to be visiting with Seth Stowes. He's with twinsdaily.com. Chris Atterbury away today. But you know what? I want to thank our sponsors. You know, we got Line-X of Fargo-Moorhead. You can find them on Main and West Fargo for truck accessories and so much more. You can also find them at linexfargo.com. But also, we got a new sponsor. We got Jiffy Lube. With all their locations across the area, you can get things done in a Jiffy if you go to Jiffy Lube. That's why we're able to talk all things Twins. They actually did some big moves, finally, in some people's minds over the last week. So we'll get his take on that. If you have not been to twinsdaily.com, I'd encourage you to go check out some of their work. After that, I'll get back to all these messages about the no knocks, about coaching as well, and officiating because of all these unruly fans that are out there. And you know them. You've seen them. You've heard them. And it's about damn time, I think, we do and set an example that if you behave this way, you are not allowed back in and might cost you some money. You dare not put your hand on somebody because guess what? That's assault, brother. So we'll be talking about all that and more right after this Kfgo News.
KFGO News, Fargo-Moorhead, cloudy, 36 degrees. It's 3:06. I'm Madison Quinn from the KFGO News Center. Bismarck Police Department have a suspect in custody in the shooting death of a 22-year-old man, which took place this morning in a residential neighborhood in northwest Bismarck. Officers responded to a parking lot in the 2700 block of Stevens Street for a report of shots fired shortly before 9 a.m. They arrived to find a man dead from a gunshot wound. Residents in the area reported hearing screams and gunshots. Detectives are currently investigating the scene and following up on leads. Police say this was a targeted attack on the individual. Shortly after 1 p.m., Bismarck police announced they'd made that arrest. After about half an hour of debate, the Fargo School Board voted Monday to begin reciting the Pledge of Allegiance at the beginning of future board meetings. The proposal was introduced by board member David Paulson. Paulson said the motion was inspired by his grandchildren who recite the pledge in school. Final vote was 6-2. Board member Jim Johnson, who voted against the measure, said including the Pledge of Allegiance in school board meetings leads to a possible situation that could, quote, create issues for the board. Language in the original motion that called for school board president to lead the pledge was removed. No members will be required to recite the pledge. Fargo Public Schools Superintendent Rupat Gandhi presented the system's plan for increasing substitute teacher pay at last night's school board meeting.
Administration will be rolling out, starting April 4th through the end of the school year, a new sub rate for a daily rate of subs, which will be $130 for individuals that don't have a regular teaching license, $150 for individuals that do have a regular teaching license.
This year, the average number of daily substitute teachers needed in Fargo has been 70, but the system only has 40 on its payroll. The shortage issue has been called an operational crisis. Well, Minneapolis high school students have begun an occupation of the school board headquarters at Davis Center as the district officials and teachers try to reach an agreement on a strike that's now in its third week. Dominic Newell is a senior at the Southwest High School. He says,
we're really just out here trying to stand for all the students and teachers of color that are being underrepresented in not only this strike, but also like in regular school and day-to-day life.
The district and teachers union had previously said they're getting closer to an agreement, but as of last night, they remained about $167 million apart. Teachers are striking for better pay, class sizes, and mental health support in schools. Well, those who assault sport officials during youth athletic events in Minnesota could face criminal penalties under a bill that's cleared a Minnesota House committee. It could be modified to levy fines instead of jail time. Sponsors Rosemont Democrat John Hewitt. He says he plans to modify the bill so there are civil fines instead of criminal penalties, which would also apply to anyone who is disruptive or physically interferes with a game organizer, player, or coach during a youth athletic activity. Hewitt stresses the criminal penalties for the assault would apply under current state law. KFGO Weather Center forecast rest of today, mostly cloudy and windy, high of 40, wind gusting up to 37 miles an hour. Today, overnight low of 24, decreasing clouds and wind. Tomorrow, We'll see partly sunny skies, increase in temperature, high of 53, wind decreasing between 6 to 17 miles an hour. Friday, high of 42, partly to mostly cloudy and windy. Too Tall Tom expects a chance for light snow or flurries in the morning, and then they will dissipate this weekend. Highs between 40 and 42, partly to mostly sunny, and some clouds on Sunday. I'm Madison Quinn, News Radio, KFGO.
Hey, baseball's back if you didn't know, and every week at this time we get to talk all things Twins, brought to you by Lannex of Fargo-Moorhead. You can find them on Main over in West Fargo. Truck accessories and so much more. You can go to LannexFargo.com to learn a little bit more. And now, new sponsor, Jiffy Lube, and all their locations here in the Fargo-Moorhead area. You get more done at a Jiffy over at Jiffy Lube, but yeah, I want to get to our guest today. Seth Stowe, TwinsDaily.com, one of those must-reads if you are a Twins fan. He joins us right now. Seth, it's been too long, man. How you been? I know. It's got that nice little, it's got like an SNL opening feel to it for whatever reason. I don't know if it's the brass sound, but yeah, it's for a while there, we didn't know if we were going to hear that song this year. And finally, it seemed like somebody turned the key, said, all right, let's play ball. And it was a relief for all of us. I am sure yourself very much included. Mm-hmm. Speaking of Twins right now, actually, I just looked. I mean, they're in action, I do believe. I think they're up 10-4 over Boston. For those of you wanting to keep track, I know it's this exhibition. Doesn't really mean anything, but it still feels good to win, right? Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about the big splash that they made over the last couple of days, because we saw some of the moves. We saw Donaldson go. People figured, all right, we know it's about the money. We saw some of the other Garver gone as well. And people were wondering, okay, well, this has got to be leading up to something, right? And then days pass and another day, and people are starting to look around. There's some sweat on the brows of my friends that are Twins fans saying, okay, what are we doing here, folks? Enter Correa. And he got a press conference. This is a big get. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I know. Well, and that was the other thing. So, okay, beggars can't be choosers here, and we can't get greedy, but you're right that we still have a little bit of room to where we can make moves when it comes to pitching, because if you talk to any casual fan, that's where I throw myself in, is, okay, we got to shore up some pitching here, because you know what? We can't just be relying on scoring 9-10 runs a game. We got to have somebody on that mound that can strike people out. Is there somebody out there that you're saying, you know what, we got to go after this guy to add to our lineup, our rotation? Seth Stows is our guest. We're talking twins, thanks to Linux, Fargo, and, of course, Jiffy Lube for sponsoring this segment. You can go to twinsdaily.com to check out more of his work there, which I'd encourage you to do. And the thing that, when I look at the AL Central here, I mean, it seems like there's an opening. I was visiting with our friend Derek Hansen just yesterday. You got the White Sox. They looked pretty dang good last year, but they're still, you make one more move to that pitching, and the Twins, I mean, there's a window here in this AL Central to make some moves to win this thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no doubt. Seth, what did I miss? That, no one's talking about this. I know we've got about, 2 weeks until we're talking the official season underway, which will be here before I know it. What did I miss this week? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You talk about rule changes, and yeah, what went from a very dire situation now to the upbeat. Hey, we got baseball. There's been moves. Oh, let's talk about one rule change that I've griped about, and then I thought I had heard this morning. What I thought was gone is now back. Are we starting that 10th inning with a man on second? Mm-hmm. Yeah, see that's where we can find common ground, because right there I was like, that's where we part ways, my friend. I'm not for it. You give it a little bit, and then all right, then you start looking at the clock. Do the whole watch look. It's like, all right, now we're in 12. Maybe we get somebody out on second. That's where we'll agree as we part ways here this time. Seth, it's always good. Yeah, it's always fun to catch up, man. Let's do it more often. All right. All right. Yeah, you take care. Seth Stowe is twinsdaily.com. Go there. Check it out. They do some great work over there. Of course, this segment, Talking All Things Twins, brought to you by Linux of Fargo. And, of course, now Jiffy Lube. I want to thank them for adding their name to that segment as well. Some more messages on the way. When we come back, I'll get to all of your messages about officiating, no-knock warrants. It's all on the table right here on KFGO. Sometimes you just gotta let it build. Get to that course. Some Bruce for y'all on a Wednesday afternoon. I'm Tyler Axis here with Eric Johnson. He's the one slinging records back there. He's our producer, and we're with you until 5 o'clock weekdays here. So back to the text. There are a variety of topics on the table right now, and in a little bit we're going to add one more to this when it comes to carbon capture pipeline, why landowners, I think, are rightfully concerned about what is being asked of them with the whole what if it works. It's a big if. But in the meantime, we're talking with Bill Warner about a couple of developments in the Minnesota legislature, one being no-knock warrants. And I appreciate I got a text from an expert and a friend of mine saying he'd be willing to come on and provide details, somebody that's been on all sides of this. And this is my way of winking at you saying, hey, we're going to schedule that because I think the Kfto listeners would appreciate that sometime in the near future here. But meanwhile, this is what some of you have had to say. Tyler, no-knock warrants escalate a situation instead of de-escalate. Another one, Tyler, a lot of times the police get the wrong house. They've killed innocent people. I sleep by 4 guns, and I'm law-abiding. If the police break in, I'm probably going to shoot them thinking they're a crackhead, but best not do the no-knock warrant so we don't accidentally pull the trigger on each other. Now, I don't know about a lot of times, but you have that possibility. I mean, that is the possibility of why, when you have somebody kicking down your door. I mean, speaking as a gun owner who has, self-protection in this sense. I mean, I can tell you by just reading the text club here that a lot of you have these firearms to protect your property, to protect your person. So if you put yourself in that position for the things that you've prepared to protect yourselves, and somebody, cop or otherwise, comes and kicks down that door, that adrenaline's and perhaps that instinct, whatever it might be, kicks in. And if you're sleeping in that delirious state, that adds a whole other level of complex to this. That's why I think it's at least healthy to have the debate to see where do you draw the line on allowing this. What does the warrant need to entail to say this is why we do support this, why we need this, and otherwise to avoid the situation like what we saw just not long ago down in Minneapolis. Others coming in about the officiating. I tell you what, we'll get back to those because I got to get you caught up with Kfto News. I'll do it after we check in with Rusty Halverson. When we come back on the flip side of that, we're going to be visiting with Scott Skokas. He's the Dakota Resource Council. He's been working with these landowners down along this carbon capture pipeline route, trying to make sure they know what rights they have in case that black vehicle that says government on it comes driving down their gravel road and says, look, we're doing it whether you want it or not. That is topic of conversation right after this.
The news and weather this hour brought to you by Muscatel Pre-Owned. Muscatel's was voted #1 by localsloveus.com for good reason. So stop in today to Muscatel Pre-Owned, just off of Exit 1 in Moorhead.
KFGO News, Fargo-Moorhead. Currently cloudy skies, 36 degrees. I'm Madison Quinn from the KFGO News Center. Bismarck Police Department has arrested a suspect in a shooting that left a 22-year-old man dead this morning. Lieutenant Luke Gardner said officers responded shortly before 9 to a parking lot in the 2700 block of Stevens Street in northwest Bismarck on reports of shots fired. They arrived to find a 22-year-old man dead from a gunshot wound. This is being called a targeted attack on the individual. Detectives are investigating. Shooting happened a short distance from an elementary school where students and children were told to shelter in place. Investigators are asking people in the neighborhood to contact the police department if they have any video evidence from doorbell cameras or home surveillance. Well, fire has damaged Paradiso Mexican restaurant at 801 38th Street South in Fargo. An alarm went off just after 3 this morning.
There was smoke showing. We had a report of flames. The first in company said they had smoke showing. They had smoke when they got here.
Fire Department Captain Mason Krieger says the first crew on scene found most of the fire and smoke coming from the front entrance on the east side of the restaurant. Firefighters forced entry into the building and searched the building to confirm no one was inside. Damage is estimated at $150,000. Causes under investigation, but a restaurant manager told KFGO News on scene it's possible an electrical issue may have started it. Currently 36 in Fargo-Moorhead. This is KFGO News. Currently 36 in Fargo-Moorhead, cloudy, windy. You're listening to KFGO News. Fargo School Board voted Monday to begin reciting the Pledge of Allegiance at the beginning of future board meetings. Proposal was originally introduced on February 8th by board member David Paulson. The motion failed. Paulson said the motion was inspired by his grandchildren who recite the pledge in school. Final vote was 6-2. Board member Seth Holden voted against the plan. That resulted in a disagreement with board member Jennifer Benson, who voted for the pledge.
There are so many reasons that this is a good idea, but I think what it comes down to is everything that I heard you say wouldn't have been allowed without those sacrifices. And so we should honor it.
Patriotism is a feeling that lives in your heart. It doesn't necessarily have to be something that you shout from a rooftop every day and insinuate any way, shape, or form that I disrespect anyone who's sacrificed their life for this country. That's grotesque.
Language in the original motion that called for the school board presidents to lead the pledge was removed, and no members will be required to recite the pledge. Well, the Twins have officially introduced their new star shortstop this morning at spring training in Fort Myers. Carlos Correa signed a 3-year contract worth more than $105 million over the weekend. He says his first order of business will be getting to know his teammates.
I know the potential and the talent that's in there, but I want to get to know them as a person, and I want to get to know, what they want to achieve this year. If I can help them in any way with some information to get better, at the end of the day, that's going to be great for the team, and it's going to give us a big chance to go out there and win the division.
Grapefruit League spring training games continue in Florida for Minnesota. The Twins open the regular season on April 7th at Target Field against Seattle. Again, you can hear that right here on the Mighty 790 and 104.7 KFGO, your home for Twins baseball. KFGO Weather Center forecast today, high of 40, mostly cloudy, windy. Tonight, overnight low 24, decreasing clouds and wind. Tomorrow, partly sunny skies, high of 53. Friday, we'll see high 42, partly to mostly cloudy and windy, and a chance for light snow or flurries in the morning. I'm Madison Quinn, News Radio, KFGO.
Rusty Halverson appears back in the KFGO studio.
Yes, sir.
welcome back.
Thank you.
We're talking hunger and global things. He said, let's talk about food supply and all that right here.
Yeah. In the last couple of farm bills, Tyler, as we begin debate on the next farm bill, the Senate has rejected House cuts to the nutrition title of the farm bill in the last couple of debates. Senate Ag Committee ranking member John Bozeman is not sure what to expect when it comes to nutrition in this new reauthorization, especially given the recent increase in food prices. No, because of high fertilizer prices and inflation, Bozeman says one thing that has to remain in the Farm Bill, the commodity title and the farm safety net. And when it comes to nutrition at home, the Great Plains Food Bank earlier today, North Dakota State University athletes gathering food this week, making a donation today. Cass Clay also making non-perishable milk donations. And anybody can give anytime to the Great Plains Food Bank. You can find them online at greatplainsfoodbank.org. They're on Facebook, and they'll take not only non-perishable food items, they will take toothbrushes, toothpaste, deodorant, anything, shampoo, conditioner, anything that somebody in need might need.
And what we've heard from these places doing such great work is the need and the demand has grown over the last few years.
Especially during the pandemic.
Yeah, more people have been utilizing their services here. And this is one, getting back to this, the Farm Bill and the nutrition program, SNAP, if people, food stamps, however you want to put it.
Yep, SNAP.
That'd be one of the things that we're going to have to watch, because you can't imagine, with everything going on as far as supply goes, inflation goes, they are going to have a drive to cut the nutrition program benefits.
It's something we'll watch.
Something we'll watch, and if they do, I will have something to say about that.
I know you will.
All right. I won't pull you into it, though. You're just the journalist here. Rusty, I always appreciate your time, man.
Don't shoot the messenger.
Tomorrow's Audibles, so get ready. Get a good night's sleep tonight.
Okay.
Because we'll be playing that tomorrow.
Okay,
right?
That sounds good.
Thanks, Rusty Halverson. Sarah Heinrich, you can go to kfgo.com, click on that agriculture tab to learn just a little bit more about that. CBS National News on the way. Scott Capture Pipeline. Let's get the latest from his perspective next. show today, I was telling you that, that there's three big projects that have really put on display property rights and the balance of all of that. One of those projects that I've been following along closely is the discussion around this carbon capture pipeline that's brought to you, or the proposals brought forward by Summit. And of course, we talked about the press conference that happened over there, but what about those landowners along the route? What are their thoughts on this? Because when I see, as the reporting goes, if it works, I keep coming back to, well, that's a pretty big if that you're going to want to answer when you're knocking on the door of these landowners. Scott Skokins is with the Dakota Resource Council. He's been having conversations with many of those landowners, and he joins us right now here on KFGO. Scott, appreciate your time, man. How you been? Yeah, it's been a long time. Yeah, that was a lifetime ago. But I'm glad to see some of the work that you're doing is continuing on here when it comes to landowner rights, in particular when it comes to people saying, look, we need to get this done, whether it's Summit Carbon Solutions, this pipeline, or other activities when it comes to just all of this. And I'm curious. You've been out there, you've been pounding the pavement, you've been at the meetings in which you've got 80, 100 people showing up, asking questions. What's the sentiment out there of these landowners? Beautiful. That sounds like something I'd be really, really willing to say, you know what, go ahead. Get the trench dug and go ahead and get it sited there. It just, the thing that I keep coming back to, Scott, whether it's this pipeline or some of the other potential development, is it seems as though you've got these heavy hitters. And I mean, I'm Doug Burgum, you got Harold Hammond, they're coming in, flying out, and they've got these big press conferences saying this is just so swell, this is going to be great, look what we're doing for you. And they're not getting the buy-in for those that are going to be directly impacted by the construction, by the risk of allowing it below their ground. I mean, it seems as though the public perception that they've created is meant to say, well, look, if you're not going to allow this and you're going to get in the way, that you're almost just completely opposed to any development whatsoever. I don't think that's fair for the people out there of what you're working with. Mm-hmm. Right. It, well, and Scott, you know the question that I've got in the little bit of time here, and I know that we're going to be visiting with some of these landowners here in the days ahead, which I do very much look forward to, and having you back on for that conversation is, why is North Dakota so eager to take everyone else's waste? Or, you know, I mean, we'll bring it on in. We'll provide you tax credits. You just bury it somewhere. We got all this open land. Why are we the ones that are the first in line to allow it? All right. Well, mhm. Well, and I'm getting repeat messages basically saying, Tyler, this technology is unproven. And I think you made that point very well. And that's a question I'm going to pose to these listeners is, would you want something that is unproven? Would you grant it the way of which these landowners are being asked to do? Scott, I'm out of time right now. I got to get a weather update, but I tell you what, next week, let's get those landowners. Let's continue this conversation. All right. All right. Appreciate it, man. Scott Skokas, Dakota Resource Council. That's my question for you. Something that has been unproven to this point, would you allow for it to be under your property? 35270. That's the iConsultants of North Dakota Text Club. You can call me on the Laney studio line at 237-5948. Get you this weather update and we'll come back to you right after this. 35270. That's the iConsultants of North Dakota Text Club. That's where you can simply put meat and text that in and get registered for our meat raffle that does start tomorrow during the Meat Dude segment. And, of course, on It Takes Two on Tuesdays as well. I'll give you all the information if you text that in. That's where I'm going to go for some of your thoughts on this this project. Tyler, the technology to inject CO2 deep underground, very unproven. This is the equivalent of trying to design and build a B-52 bomber while the Wright brothers are still flying gliders. See, now that's the point. I think there are people saying, look, we want to do something when it comes to carbon and capturing and the sequestration, all of that, to clean up the air, right? But you're going to go out there on something that hasn't really been proven on this large of a scale. Go have press conferences with the governor, with Harold Hamm, all the oil boys saying, look what we're doing for you, without getting the buy-in and being able to answer questions of those landowners. Who's your land you're going to put that pipeline of this unproven method under? That process is wrong. Those landowners deserve better. That's my take. You can get yours into that same text club at 35270. We'll take that conversation. One more guest. Signatures. How do you gather them? What went wrong with the term limits in North Dakota? Charles Tuttle. He was out there gathering signatures. We'll see what he has to say right after this. Caught up with the latest headlines of today in KFGO News Center. But you know what happened yesterday? Right about this time, Secretary of State Al Jaguar came out with his letter rejecting the petitions, a number of petitions, about 30,000 signatures rejected when it comes to that term limits in North Dakota initiate a measure. I want to know what the world happened here, because a lot of you, by your voices onto this very platform of Afternoons Live, has said, you know what, if that gets on the ballot, I'm voting for it. You're not going to have that opportunity now because of what the Attorney General's office and what the Secretary of States are investigating here. One of the individuals that's out gathering those signatures, no stranger to being active in North Dakota politics, in fact, he's been on the ballot a number of times, is Charles Tuttle. He's going to be joining us after we get you caught up on the local headlines to figure out his side of this. What went wrong? Are these allegations... this investigation's going on. What were you asked? All of that, and he's going to hopefully provide some of those answers. If you have a question, you can send that into the iConsultants of North Dakota Text Club. That's at 35270. We'll come back with that conversation right after this KFGO News.
KFGO News, Fargo-Moorhead. It is 36 degrees, cloudy, windy skies. It's 4:06. I'm Madison Quinn from the KFGO News Center. Bismarck Police Department has a suspect in custody for the shooting death of a 22-year-old man, which took place this morning in a residential neighborhood in northwest Bismarck. Officers responded to a parking lot in the 2700 block of Stevens Street for a report of shots fired shortly before 9 a.m. They arrived to find a man dead from a gunshot wound. Residents in the area reported hearing screams and gunshots. Detectives are currently investigating the scene. Police say this was a targeted attack on the individual. Shortly after 1 p.m., Bismarck police announced they made that arrest. Well, food shelf operators will tell you one of the most requested items by clients is milk, and one of the hardest items to obtain and distribute is milk as well. Officials with Great Plains Food Bank say Cass Clay Creamery has stepped up to help meet some of the demand. The company has donated over 24,000 individual containers of shelf staple milk. Scott Bowl is the general manager for Cass Clay in Fargo. He says the milk, sold under the name Giving Cow, has a similar taste to regular milk and has the same nutritional qualities. Great Plains Food Bank President and CEO Melissa Sobolik says the shelf stable milk can be stored for up to a year, though she's not expecting it to stay around that long.
And that can go in our backpacks, and we're doing, a couple thousand of those a week, so it'll go quickly. We're also opening this up to our food pantries and shelters, so they'll be able to place an order and it'll get directly on their shelves quickly. This literally means the difference between families not getting milk or dairy products and them getting it.
Wednesday's donation is the second of 3 donations planned for this year by Cass Clay. UND will announce additional relaxations in COVID-19 protocols today. During an online video message, University President Andrew Armacost said UND would ease mask requirements in public spaces. Armacost said UND is moving from a pandemic to endemic mode. Late last month, UND announced that masks would be encouraged but not required in many indoor public spaces, but masks would be required in classrooms, student health services, Children Learning Center, COVID testing sites at Pollard Center and Wilkerson Commons, and certain educational spaces. Well, those who assault sports officials during youth athletic events in Minnesota could face criminal penalties under a bill that cleared a Minnesota House committee. Most could be modified to have fines rather than jail time. Sponsor Rosemont Democrat John Hewitt says a couple years ago he was on a football field when an irate fan was in the stands.
What was sad about this incident and why it continuously plays over and over, the son came up to me at a timeout and said, "I am so sorry. My dad is out of control." Now, to have a kid do that is just pathetic.
Hewitt plans to modify his bill as it moves through the legislature, so there are civil fines instead of criminal penalties, which would also apply to anyone who is disruptive or physically interferes with a game organizer, player, or coach during a youth athletic activity. KFGO Weather Center forecast from meteorologist Tom Schminski. Today, high of 40, mostly cloudy and windy. Tonight, decreasing clouds and wind, a low of 24. Tomorrow, we'll see a high of 53 with partly sunny skies, also decreasing wind tomorrow. Friday, high 42, partly to mostly cloudy, windy, chance for light snow or flurries in the morning. Then that will move off Saturday and Sunday. Highs between 40 to 42 with partly to mostly sunny skies on Saturday and partly to mostly cloudy skies on Sunday. I'm Madison Quinn, News Radio, KFGO.
Yesterday was about this time in which our KFGO News Center handed me the letter from Secretary of State Al Jagger's office that was about the North Dakota for term limits. And that was basically saying, you know what, there's too many invalid signatures here that this is not going to appear on the ballot. I know a lot of you listening yesterday and quite frankly today are upset because you wanted a chance to vote for this. You supported it, or at least were eager to have it on the ballot. Term limits have been on top of mind for a lot of people. That appears that it's not going to happen. And we want to know what went wrong. So we reached out to Charles Tuttle. He is one of the individuals that's been backing this. He was gathering signatures. You know Charles. He's been on statewide ballots before, very active in North Dakota politics, joining us right now. Charles, I appreciate your time. How are you doing? I'm doing well. Question is on a lot of people's minds of what happened here? What went wrong? Why aren't we going to get a chance to vote on term limits in North Dakota? Mm-hmm. Well, what? Mm-hmm. Well, Charles, and this is where we'll get back to this one because they're claiming that when I got the total here, this is from the Secretary of State's total of number rejected signatures about 29,000. That's a lot. And the claims here, and this is just coming from the Secretary of State's office, that several signatures were likely forged because of the notary that you alluded to. Paid bonuses based on the number of signatures they obtained. I know you were one of those gathering signatures. Were you paid a bonus based on how many signatures you gathered? Okay. Okay. Some of the other things that we're throwing out here, petitions included a significant number of signatures from residents of other states. So when it comes to, because you made the, okay. Yep. Charles, you know what? Two things. I want to go down that path. I do, because I'm watching from afar as the Republican. The infighting is very apparent there. I want to get back to the signature part just for a minute here, because you talked about out-of-state signature gatherers, but the allegations are there were signatures from residents of other states. I mean, you got to agree that those signatures should not be included. Okay. Mm-hmm. When Charles Tuttle's our guest. Charles, so quickly here, is there anything that follows this? I mean, right now you're not going to be on the ballot. There's people out there that they wanted the opportunities to vote. So what comes after this? Well, and that's where, and Charles, that's where it's going to come down to this investigation, which my understanding, and this was actually based on what I think you had shared openly, is the Attorney General's Bureau of Criminal Investigations got involved to figure out what wasn't valid here. I'm curious, what did they ask you? What did BCI call and ask you to reveal? Charles, for those that did do what is allegedly wrong from the Secretary of State's and from the Attorney General's office, I mean, there's been a lot of talk about election integrity. I mean, should people even listen to them if they've got this wrong, if they didn't adhere to the current election laws? Sure. Yeah. Charles, I'm going to switch back to one thing you said because I'm running out of time here, and I do appreciate your time. You mentioned that the Republican Party, you mentioned, look, they're trying to disenfranchise us. They're rhinos. What do you do then? I mean, you got this Bastiat caucus that, quite frankly, if I look at those that were gathering signatures, you got Rick Beckers, you talked about Jeff Magrum. I mean, what do you guys do then? I mean, do you form your own party? Do you leave the Republican Party? What's the next step in about a minute time here? Charles, one final question. I'm running out of time here, and I've given you a lot of time here. The Luke Simon situation, is that the defining, was that the last straw for you? Was that the last straw for the people that you're saying, look, these are the real Republicans in North Dakota? Was it because Luke Simons got kicked out of the legislature? Well, and Charles, we're not going to get into the whole name calling of these attorneys who are well respected from a lot of people. It was the crossing of the line of the harassment and the way of which he approached it. It was what got him in trouble. Charles, I'm out of time. I'm out of time here. I gave you a lot. I appreciate your time. If you guys take that next step, whether it's this or if you guys are running candidates, we'd love to have you back. All right. All right. Well, there was the announcement right there. Charles Tuttle's running for Secretary of State, he says. Your thoughts at 35270. iConsultants of North Dakota Text Club, lots of them. I'll come back to that right after this. It is 4:27 on a Wednesday, and I'm Tyler Axis. You got to locked into Afternoons Live on Kfgo. Did you catch your breath? Boy, there's a lot of thoughts that have poured in after our conversation with Charles Tuttle. You are deserved an owed an answer as to how this got goofed. I mean, you know, if Charles went and did the things correctly, which, you know what, I don't have any doubt. The guy's done it so many times. He's ran for so many offices. He knows the ins and outs. But that doesn't mean that others didn't cheat the system. I mean, it's not an accident that you got 29,000 signatures thrown up because of the multiple allegations and findings after a long investigation from the Secretary of State's office. Now, whether you're going to vote for or against term limits is a whole other thing. But the one thing, and that's why I asked, like, why should those that talk about election integrity when they can't follow the election laws, why should people listen to those individuals, especially the lawmakers out in Bismarck that are pushing some of that? Well, I'll get back to your messages. I'm way behind my time. Get you caught up with KFGO News. Your thoughts. You, me, this microphone, your cell phone, the whole rest of the way here on Afternoons Live. Don't go anywhere.
News and weather this hour brought to you by Otter Tail Power Company, positively impacting communities they serve for more than a century.
KFGO News, Fargo-Moorhead. It is 36 degrees and cloudy. I'm Madison Quinn from the KFGO News Center. Fargo Public School Superintendent Rupak Gandhi presented the systems plan for an increasing substitute teacher pay at last night's school board meeting. It's effective immediately through the end of the school year. The new daily hour rate for subs will be $130 for those who do not have a regular teaching license and $150 for those who do. This year, the average number of daily subs needed in Fargo has been 70, but the system is only 40 on its payroll. Shortage issue has been called an operational crisis. Gandhi said this is a short-term fix.
The reason that this sunsets on May 26th at the end of the year is because we want to take a more comprehensive approach this summer. Look at substitutes and what's the best way to align our dollars with the individuals that we want serving as a substitute for a classroom teacher.
Gandhi says they are looking at community partnerships, helping address the issue in the future, including one with Valley City State.
Their entire junior class that is taking their education programs working towards being certified teachers will be renting spaces from Fargo Public Schools 2 days a week to do their coursework here. Their professors would do it out of our buildings, and then that entire junior class will then sub for us 3 days a week.
Fargo schools will also permanently increase pay for staff who give up planning and prep time to fill in as subs when needed. Currently 36 degrees in Fargo-Moorhead. This is KFGO News. .36 degrees in Fargo-Moorhead, cloudy, windy conditions. This is KFGO News. Quote, get there now, finish this up. That's Governor Tim Walz says both sides as the Minneapolis teachers strike continues in its third week. As to his own involvement, Walz says negotiations are a time-honored process between the teachers and the school district.
I have made the case that we can make these negotiations far easier if we pass the budget that we have that has a significant increase, as it should be, into education.
Governor contends salaries for education service professionals are not adequate. A social media post from an owner of a Rapid City hotel attempting to ban Native Americans from the property following a weekend shooting drew quick condemnation from the leader of the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe and the city's mayor. Owner of the Grand Gateway Hotel said in a Facebook post that she cannot allow a Native American to enter her business following a shooting at the hotel early Saturday. Police say both the victim who survived and the suspect are Native American. Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe Chairman Harold Frazier and Mayor Steve Allender both condemned Collier's post, with Allender calling it unlawful and heartless. South Dakota Governor Christie Gnome has signed a bill to wipe away the state and county fees for concealed firearm permits. Republican governor brought the proposal this year as a way to both tout her support for gun ownership rights and cut government fees. She initially proposed eliminating state business filing fees as part of the bill. Lawmakers struck that portion from the legislation. They argued it would have created a flood of out-of-state entities applying for business registrations in South Dakota. The bill's estimated to cost the state about $110,000 annually in lost revenue. Taking a look at the KFGO Weather Center forecast. Today, mostly cloudy. Rest of today, high of 40. Tonight, overnight low of 24, decreasing clouds and wind. Tomorrow, expect partly sunny skies, high of 53. Friday, we'll see high of 42. Partly to mostly cloudy and windy, chance for light snow or flurries in the morning. Then those will move off, and a low of 32. Currently 36 degrees in Fargo-Moorhead. I'm Madison Quinn, News Radio, KFGO.
Everything from unruly fans to pipelines to petitions and political conventions in the text club. I'm coming back to that right after the CBS National News. Don't go anywhere. Well, let me just summarize a lot of these messages into this statement that a lot of you, you're not going to be voting for Charles Tuttle for Secretary of State after our conversation, which is why we reached out. I mean, you've got a group that was out there. And you know what? There was a lot of lawmakers on this thing that were trying to put term limits on legislators going forward and on the governor. And that got rejected, overwhelmingly rejected because of the inadequate valid signatures. Now, Secretary of State rolled out a number of things here. I mean, I'm counting at least 5 allegations as to why each of the signatures were thrown out, because they have violated the law, the election laws here in North Dakota as they are. That's why if you're going to be, some of these lawmakers out there pounding the table about election integrity and you can't follow the election laws in the state of North Dakota, you have lost all credibility. Yeah, you have. So with this now then being handed over to the Attorney General's office and the Bureau of Criminal Investigation, that's a whole other line of questioning that's going to be coming out as to whether or not there was criminal actions taken on some of these signature gatherers. When we're talking about signatures from residents of other states, not anybody in their right mind. This is where I'll give Charles credit that he said as well, no, if they're not from the state, they should be thrown out. But you can't just say all the other signatures should be validated because of some of the other violations that were on these official documents. It's not like you're just handing out your notepad to where, all right, well, here, I drew some lines on this. I used a ruler to make sure you stay within those lines, and then print your name, signature, your address. It's so much more official than that. And they got it wrong. Now, whether the individual I had on went by the letter of the law because he's done it so many damn times, kudos to him. But that doesn't mean that everyone else on this sponsoring committee and everyone else who's out there gathering signatures did. And that's what happens when you violate the law. You get this thing thrown out, and that's what happened. And there's people angry that they're not going to have an opportunity to vote on term limits. I don't know how I would have voted. I don't. The more we talk about how stupid everything has come when it comes to politics in general, the more you kind of wonder about term limits. Maybe that is the way. Every year every election year, you've got an opportunity to vote them out. You don't. Overwhelmingly, you don't. And a lot of the new people, or a lot of the people that have been voted in recently, more recent elections have put in place people that are on a committee like this. And they didn't know what they were doing for the most part. And now you're not going to get that opportunity to vote for that. As far as all the other things thrown out in here, it's noted. Okay, you're not voting for the guy, but at least he was able to or willing to come on. Because trust me, Eric Johnson had to put a little bit of work to get him to accept to come on the program. So I want to thank him for that. But the other thing that was thrown out in that conversation was how the Republican Party in North Dakota is handling things. And they're well within the right, whether you can agree with it or not. A message going, Tyler, for example, District 25 Republicans charge $25 to attend their convention. The Democrats don't charge, and we pay to feed everyone. See, and they're well within the right. The thing is, this is where I've got very little to no sympathy for those that I do have a great working relationship that are on the Republican side, that are in office now or were in office, or they're lobbyists now, that the whisper campaigns that go on in this state all the time behind brass rails, don't want to be in public, saying, geez, how do we do this? You kind of created the environment by helping out the last time. I mean, by helping through campaign contributions, by not really saying, look, what they're approaching with is something you created the environment here. So I don't have a lot of sympathy for this situation that you find yourselves in. I want you to win. I want people getting elected to office at all levels that are actually have a priority in mind of public policy and public service. But you got to pick some things up around here. 237-594, that's the Laney studio line. That's where I'm going to talk with Dennis. Dennis, appreciate the phone call. How are you this Wednesday? Good. Okay. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, thanks for listening, Dennis. And here's why I'm going to push back on that. Because he's been a part of this, and you were owed an explanation as to how they goofed it up and why people that have been waiting and listening and talking about this for, I don't know, the last 4, 5, 6 months were eager to do it, and that was ripped away from them because somebody goofed up along the process. It's one thing to talk about all the individuals. It's another to give them an opportunity to explain themselves, whether you agree with their approach or not. I'm not going to apologize for allowing an individual, whether you like him or disliked what he said, to come on and give his piece with it. Certainly, I didn't agree. I don't agree. I won't vote for him as Secretary of State of North Dakota. But just by shunning and looking the other way doesn't mean they just go away either. 237-5948. So you can join the Laney studio line. You can also text into 35270. That's the Eye Consultants of North Dakota Text Club. I'll come back to this. We'll see what's coming up on the Drive Time News. Derek Hansen right after this KFGO weather. Don't go anywhere.